Hi there. My name's Jennifer Soenen, and I am a time strategist and looking forward to sharing this podcast with you and your audience.
Hello, sunshine. Good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl Sharonza with Women's Successful Living, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode of our Soulful Self-Care Conversation, where we talk about everything self-care. How can you overflow your cup about self-care while taking care of others that you need to take care of, and always making sure that you know you put yourself first. And today is no different. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Jen Soenen, and she is a time productivity expert who enjoys helping others to manage their time optimally. Her systems and strategic and easy to implement. We all need to do easy to implement. I love that. Jen is formerly trained teacher with over 19 years of experience and is a certified mastery coach. Along with her education, Jen has had many diverse experiences that give her a unique perspective and real world applications. Jen is also a mother, partner, teacher, coach, golfer, and on a mission to teach others how to gain control of our most precious non-renewable source, and that is our time. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
You're welcome. So I always like to have a little bit of fun. Oftentimes I'm asked, do you have any questions? I have no questions that we have preset, but I always like to start us off with one really fun way of opening up the show. And that is to talk to your little girl within, Jen. So if we can take some time to kind of play together, I would love for you to introduce us to your inner child, Jen, and tell us what was she like growing up? What did she enjoy doing? Was she a tomboy? Did she like playing with Barbies? What was her joy? And what did she want to be when she grew up to this adult version of Jen? And how does that correlate to what you do today?
All right. Lots of questions there. You just tell me if I don't hit everything. Definitely as a child, I am a middle child. So that meant I kept the peace a lot. I was the negotiator. It's so interesting. I just came back from a retreat in BC with my mindset peak performance coach. And we did actually a lot of clearing up any misunderstandings of a little child. But for me, it was definitely, I grew up on a farm, so definitely tomboy as well. And my older sister is only 18 months older than me. So she definitely spoke for me till I was about 6. Like I was not allowed to have an opinion and to, let alone speak. And in fact, my first words were, and this, I don't remember this. This is like my family telling the stories over years and years was like, "Hey, Fatso, what's up?" That's that was that is what everybody said that I said to one of the local farmers that was coming by, and he was chit-chatting, and I'm like, okay, well, nobody can blame me on that one. Somebody else must have been saying it. So definitely tomboy. Like I love being outdoors, and growing up on the farm, like either helped in the kitchen because we would cook meals for all our help, and then or you were out in the field, and I was definitely a field person, so big on that. And I love swimming definitely, and I actually was in my like 16 and on, I was a swimming instructor. So the foreshadowing of teaching and coaching was definitely in there. I always like to help people, and it definitely spread to what I do today. And I've taught for over 20 years, and had my business for around 3, 4 years, and so happy that I stepped out and found my voice, because as a child I didn't really express that very much. So now in the coaching realm for sure, finding that voice and standing strong with it.
I think I love when you're talking about your sister was your voice, and then you had that it's so true that is an example. So if you're watching us on YouTube, or you're listening to us, we talk about that here often, like what we say around our littles is powerful because they're going to emulate what they see, talk, and hear, right? And so, yeah, you probably heard somebody say that something or talk about somebody to do that, and it's so true. And I love that you reminded us of that, like, and how your big sister took care of you. I mean, I'm the oldest. My sister is 2.5 years younger than I am, and then my brother's 7 years younger than I skipped my sister. I took care of my brother. My sister was a unique child, so um, she kind of had a mind of her own, so you couldn't guide her for nothing. She had her own guidance. She's not quite what they call the middle child syndrome, but she was close to it. So it was an interesting journey. But I remember always like speaking up for my brother. I remember one time my brother did something. He was like 2 years old. He was still able to crawl in and out of his crib, and he did something, and my dad said, "You need to go to your crib." And I was like, I remember going up to my dad. So I must have been like 7 or 8 years old, and I was like, "That's not really nice what you said to him. That's you shouldn't talk to him that way." He's like, "Well, go join him." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I'm speaking for him too. But I love what you're, how that always correlates to what we do today. Like, enjoying and finding your voice. It's so important, that we find our voice. One of the things that I do as well as a coach is I get to coach at a nonprofit for women who are between homelessness and or domestic violence situations and stuff like that. And I always talk about how important their voice is, that even
Mhm.
making those relationships and whatever they're coming through, their trauma, their voice is powerful and they have a right to speak it, say it, and, live what their voice and mind is telling them. And so I appreciate you reminding us of that today. And so today we're going to talk a lot about time. And for me, time is such, and it has become such, it always was, well, let me take it back. It wasn't until 2015 that I realized how important time was. And that was when I was on this journey of realizing I was showing up for everybody else but for me. I
Mhm.
was showing up for the titles that I wore, for people who asked me for help. Like I would organize your sock drawer. I was an ultimate people pleaser. And so it was eating up my time and I was becoming very unhappy and stressed out. And so in 2015, I went on this journey to figure out who the heck I was. My oldest going off to college. And so I took this identity and destiny course and we had to give our I am statement at the end of 6 weeks. During that 6 weeks, we were supposed to be working and finding out who the heck we were. What do we want in our life? And at the end of the 6 weeks, my statement was still my titles. And it took somebody sitting across from me to say, "Where is Pearl? And what are you doing? Like, where have you
Mm.
been for 6 weeks?" And it was a slap in the face of, she's right. What have I done for the last 6 weeks? I'm like, coming every week to this class. Why am I not playing this? And so my oldest was going off to college. So I dropped him off to college. And my youngest one, which she pointed out too in that conversation was, you talk a lot about Matt. We don't hear much about Nate. And I was like, oh my gosh, so Nate is very independent. He like builds computers, like all this great stuff that I wish I could do part of what he does. But I was like, okay, I got to reconnect with him, drop Matt off to college. And so I really started on this journey to figure out who Pearl was. Now, mind you, Jen, I hated my name growing up. I did not like my name because I was short. So I was called Mini Pearl. I was called Pearl
Oh,
Barber. I was, my maiden name was Nap. I was told, Pearl, go take a nap. All these things. I would come home, Mom, please change my name. So to not only grasp like doing this journey of who am I had to accept my name. And that's why now everything I do is all around pearls because I found out that I love myself and I love who I am and that I'm worthy of putting myself first and understanding that no is
mhm.
a sentence. And so time, that was a big thing that slapped me in my face because I was like, I had no time for me. And when I started this journey, I was like, I need to make time for me because I'm not promised tomorrow. And those that have listened to the show before are new, and I don't know if Jen, if you and I talked about this when we've spoken before, but in 2022, in July, it hit me in my face because we lost our oldest son, Matthew, in a tragic car accident. And
Mm.
it was 2 weeks later after he passed away that he had two friends show up on our doorstep and like, hey, is Matt home? They didn't get the message or I didn't have any way of contacting them to let them know Matt had passed. And so when
Oh,
I
I'm so
look at,
sorry.
thank you. And so
Yeah.
like pouring into them and helping them understand that, they had a great relationship and walk them through that. But the reason I bring that up is that 2 days before Matt passed, one of the things he said to me is he asked me to throw a bottle of water to him in the garage. So I chucked this bottle of water across and I was like, he's like, man, mom, you finally not only figured out who you are, but you could throw something. Cause he played football. I could not throw football. So I take that as understanding that as I went on my journey to figure out who I was, my kids started seeing that I was showing up for me. I had that time from 15 to 22 with my boys, and that I was happy that I had that precious time with them. Even that last memory we have 2 days before we passed. So time means a lot to me now. So talk to us. At what point you were like, I want to talk about time. What was your Shiro story, as I like to call it, where you're like, time is precious and we need to put this out in the world?
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And sometimes it's usually a big event that people are like, "Oh, wait a minute, I actually can take some control and responsibility." I It's not so much control, because the word control means that, like, a lot of people are like, you're grabbing people by the ear, and it's forceful. I like to say responsibility, that you develop that ability to respond to time, right? And our relationship. And there's many theories out there. For me, it was like yourself, first a journey of self-discovery. And definitely I remember looking at my day timer the one time, and this was many years ago, like 2011, 2012, in there. And you know it was beautiful. The day timer was gorgeous, and I was just looking at it and going, oh my goodness. I saw that there was, like you, commitments to other people. Everything was, favors, obligations. I thought that's where I got my source of happiness from. So it was like, yes, I was saying yes to all of this, but there was zero time for me. And in fact, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know of that course that you took, because it probably would have, shortened the time frame on the years that I spent rediscovering myself. And I really felt empty, depleted, and just really lost. Plus, my marriage was dissolving in front of my eyes. So definitely that added to it as well. And to the outside, because I mean, it took 3 years for my marriage to actually dissolve. So it was like, on the outside, full-time teacher, I have a young boy at home, like, everything's gotten it looked pretty from the outside, but I was just, destroyed on the inside. So I just started small, like adding the joy back into my life, finding things that I wanted to do. And then I love research. And so I just went down, and there's so many different time strategy, time management research out there, the studies, the books. I have one right now that I'm just currently reading, it's called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman. And I love I love the book because it gives studies and actual quantifiable data, which I'm very analytical and practical. So that's really where I started. And then I was teaching full time. I always had the desire to have my own business and coaching business. And then I opened up my coaching, and I did general life coaching. And I just found I wanted to have a higher impact. And so I really niched down to time. It's gender neutral, like definitely being a teacher. There's so many, making sure that you're using the right pronouns and that things aren't swayed. So that's how I settled upon time. And I just think it's very impactful for everyone.
I I picture the leather planner, like that planner that you said, like sitting there and going, and many people don't have the planner. They just have that, oh my gosh, I got to go do this. I got to go do that. Oh, I got to pick up the stuff for the kids. And then you wake up in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. You're like, I forgot to send the email. Like I remember some of that happening for me. And it's like, I have to do something. We have to make that change and that shift. And, one of the things you said, was about finding your voice, but the responsibility for us, I responsibility to ourselves to be like, I need to do something to take care of me, because I can't take care of everybody else if I'm
Hmm.
not overflowing my cup. And it's so powerful. But the other thing that you said is joy, and about the joy. And for me, I love taking my clients. This is one of my favorite parts when I coach, is finding the joy, like what's on your joy list. And I'll tell them, like, as soon as they start with me, especially if they're in my 6-month program, like, it's going to take you 6 weeks to do your joy list, because I want 10 things that bring you joy. And it's not just about, oh, I like getting up in the morning and seeing the sun. Well, we all like to wake up in the morning, but what about that day that's coming is bringing you joy? Like, what in your day you're going to do that's going to pour into you and bring you joy? And
Hmm.
I think it's so powerful. Like, when we figure that out, and then, like you said, the other thing I like to do is like take 1 or 2 things, start small,
Yeah.
start small, pick something on that joy list and just start doing one of those things on that joy list. And the other part that I like to throw out there too, because when we don't do this part, we spend a lot of time not getting to our joy list. So
Yeah.
I like what's called the not to do list. Like, what do I have to
Yeah.
stop doing? Right. So I have to stop the negative self-talk. I have to stop maybe answering my phone when I want to have quiet time. I'm in the middle of my quiet time. Don't answer my phone. What are the things you have to stop doing that's keeping you from your joy list or keeping you from your goals? And that, to me, that was another part of my time that I realized I might said I want to work on this, but so and so called or somebody comes up to my office. I get these interruptions that take up
Yeah.
time. I forget what the stats are. Maybe I think there's something that talks about when you stop doing in the middle of doing something, it takes so much time to start back and get back.
It's usually around 22 minutes,
Yeah.
like just to get fully into it. That's why, time blocking is key in building in that transition time. And just even to circle back to that joy list, I know it is challenging. And I always, I share with my friends and my clients as well that how I figured out what I wanted to do again, like on my joy list was, I was like, what did I love when I was a kid? Right. And, try those activities or variations, depending if you have you can't quite do the activity anymore. But that's a great, like, kind of springboard into what you want to try. Yeah. And yeah, but that transition time, like every time that you are interrupted, like even now, right? Put on the do not disturb. I'm not attached to my phone. So, and to my emails, it frustrates some of the people. Like, I do accountability coaching and I am like on for that, but I can like filter through what messages I'm going to get and what I don't. So it definitely is. I like how you said that, right? Like the power of no is important as well, because you got to safeguard. We have it's an economy, right? It's like you have unlimited wants and needs, what you would want to do with your time, but you have limited time. So you got to play around with what you like.
Yeah. I remember I was sitting in a seminar with a friend one time, and I can't remember what it was, but it was some sort of health seminar. And the person speaking said, women need to get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep a night. And we both looked at each other. It's like, right. Where does that come from? But now, like, as I went through my journey, I can say that I get that. Like, I do really good about that. And I work hard. I might fall a half hour short here or there, but I work really hard because I know if I get that sleep, and there was a lot of power in what they shared, I'm more refreshed in the morning. The other
Yeah.
the other day I'd stayed up late. I had to do a presentation. I got in my head about what I wanted the presentation about. So it's like midnight. Well, I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning at the latest to leave by 7 to head to this meeting I had. I finished up at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I couldn't fall asleep for another hour. So I got like 4 hours of sleep, and I came home from my meeting. It was like 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning. I looked at my husband like, I am going to go take a nap. He looked at me like, what? I'm like, I didn't get enough sleep last night. If I'm going to function today, I got to go catch up my sleep. And I'm like, at the beginning of the day, nothing's happening. I'll be fine. But like now, but if I look back at the old me, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go take care of this, go take care of that, and so it's so powerful. Speak to the person, Jen, that's hearing us talk, that's like, that's all great and everything, but they're like, everything's swimming in their head. Like, where do they start? So when you work with your clients, help them start understanding this value of time and wrapping their head around it. They're looking at their planner like you did and be like, okay, sure, you want me to do something, but look at that planner, right? Speak to that person and like, can you give them like what are the top 3 or 5 tips you would say to them? And like, I like what you said about starting small, but to that person, where's some place like help them walk through some steps they can start?
Yeah, and I use this acronym and I still haven't figured out the source of it. Like one of my business coaches told me, and she's like, listen, I didn't think of this, but I use it and we still can't find the resource. So it's using the acronym TIME and actually you could look in your agenda or your calendar. And T is like, you mark everything. Let's say if you wanted to do it for a day or a week, T is treasure time. So list, like go through and look and see how much treasure time that you have. And treasure time to me may look different to you. And just whatever you value in that, I think that makes a difference. And then you list everything you go through and mark with an I for investment time. So if you own your own business, like what are those activities that you are doing that are going to get you that return on investment? M, you would go through and mark down like the mundane tasks. So that's like laundry, cooking supper and this and, that kind of thing is like I have to do this, vacuum the floor. And then E is empty time. And you would mark down any empty time. So that could be scrolling on social media. Now, some people use social media, so that wouldn't be, or, you know, watching unintentionally, like binging on Netflix or Prime, like whatever you're doing, but you didn't really have it planned, but you just kind of mindlessly went through the motions. That's empty time. And so once you've done that, what happens is that my clients find, like when I've done this usually in workshops, is that, oh, I said, so we work then and change those Monday tasks into treasure time. For example, like now when I do laundry, it's my son and I doing laundry, and it's kind of like that precious time that you have when you're in the car with them, like they can't go anywhere. Well, laundry time, it's kind of like that. But before, I was doing it all myself and just, you know, turning on Netflix, folding laundry by myself. So, if you can be creative and turn those mundane tasks into that treasure time, and maybe you realize, you know what, I could actually spend more time on investment time and hire that out, right? Like, so get a cleaning lady. And, the empty time brings awareness into if you're complaining that you don't have enough time and you actually analyze. And I always say to people, don't go with what you planned in your calendar, write down what you actually do in your calendars as well. That's another tip because we can plan a full calendar and then nothing goes like it. And then you get frustrated every time you look at your calendar, right? I'm definitely a whole body teacher and learner. And so I do energy mapping. So I coordinate their brain's energy with the tasks. So that would be like a more consultation. But, some people can kind of see, your ebb and flow throughout the day. We tend to relate it to our bodies, but really kind of maybe focus on the brain. Like, when do I feel really like on point? And research has shown nobody can feel on point all day. So there is, it's not like you're 8 hours and I'm peak all the time. No, it's impossible. Right. And if you try and do that, you're going to burn yourself out. Whereas like peak performance, the research shows is 1 to 2 hours a day. And so really capitalizing on that focus time. So that's really, really important, I think. So I think that is, steps, doing the time acronym, looking at your calendar and, have an intentional calendar, but then go back at the end of the day and modify it to what you actually did. And that will highlight maybe some transition times, really focus on I have these time cubes. I don't know why it's not on my desk right now, but I will, turn on that time cube and nothing can disturb me. Right. So that's a good indicator. And it's interesting because I have an hourglass as well. So I'll flip the hourglass over, and it's better than turning on the stopwatch on your phone, right? Because then you're looking at your phone, and if you have your notifications on, you can see, like, get a visual, to keep you focused is really important. And it looks pretty on your desk.
I never heard this time acronym. I think it's really powerful. And there's a lot to be said too. And like what you said about writing down what you do, like go back and write down what you do. I
Yeah.
started doing on my phone, there's a way to track your social media, and you can track
Hmm.
what you're scrolling. You say, I want X hours, and it will tell you're at the hour, so it won't open up for you. So you have to tell it yes or no to open. But I mean, you still sometimes tell it no. But I like that you're talking about that. When you said mundane task and doing the laundry with your son, it reminded me of a story I've shared on the show before. I was visiting my brother and sister-in-law. Like I said, my brother's younger than me, so he's my nephew. It was like I think 3, maybe 4 years old. And so my sister-in-law was working from home, and she said, "Come on, want to go upstairs with me? Sean's going to put his clothes away." I'm like going, 3 years old. How's he putting his clothes away? And she's like, no, listen, it's not going to be perfectly, but he needs to understand this is a team effort. I'm not the maid. We are a team. And I'm like, oh, so you're sort of like running a business of the house. She goes, yeah. So she was teaching him at a young age, like, come on, we're going to put the clothes away. These are a team. And then he was starting to help put the dishes in the dishwasher, things like that. I was like, that was so powerful. I'm like, man, where was this when I was raising my boys? I came from the generation that watched my granny do everything, and then my mom had to do everything and work at the same time. And now I'm like going, that generation, how do I make it work and not work? It's like, how do I have it all? And, that's where the titles came in, for me.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, like taking those Monday tasks and how to make them so they're, precious, that treasure time, I think is really awesome. I have on my calendar, every Monday, I have what's called focus time, because Mondays Mondays are Mondays. It's like the start of the week. I'm trying to shift more of it to Fridays now. It's like, why do I wait till Mondays? Why don't we finish up Friday to go into the weekend with no worries? But one of the things I do is I block everything out, so nobody can schedule anything on my calendar on Mondays. And then I also switched over, like you and I are recording on Fridays. I also switched my podcast recordings to all be on Fridays, because it just works better for me and my calendar. And just, I do back-to-back recordings, but it makes more sense for me to do it that way, because then Wednesday's sort of like that big day of networking and meeting with people that are
Hmm.
coaching and that kind of thing. So I've kind of learned how to somewhat manage it. It's taken me many, many years to do it, but I've learned how to figure out how do I want to manage that time. And I've started, like, on top of that, I started going and blocking it on my calendar so people can't put anything on my calendar. So I'll, like what you said, like write down what I do, all the things I do. I'm like, okay, I do this a lot. Where do I want to do it at? And I started
Yeah.
adding it to my calendar as an appointment so that nobody can book anything in there at that time.
Yeah. And when I first separated from my ex-husband too, people were laughing because I would open up my day timer and it would have in there spend time with Carson. And people are like, why are you putting that in? And I'm like, oh, because you see that and you will not ask me to do things. And I am not strong enough yet to say no to people. But if they visually see it, then they naturally are like, oh, you already have
Right.
time. Like you
Yeah.
already have that booked. And even to this day, I still block out time with my son. Like we still share um, weeks. And so I just find it super important. And if he takes a look at my calendar, he knows that he matters. And that I think has helped as well. Like he matters in my life that I have blocked out this time.
And that's a beautiful thing too. So it's for those that are listening, like if you have kids at home, like making sure they're making time, as you guys heard at the beginning of the show, we did lose Matthew, and I'm so glad that that figured out this stuff and had this time with them. And then it even like my younger son, Nate, I remember we had a conversation with his girlfriend, and then Chuck and I, we were at dinner after Matt passed, and we said, we have to make a commitment that once a month, the four of us get together and do something. And now they're married too, and they're working. It's interesting because I had a family member who said to me, well, we never hear from Nate, and Nate this and Nate. I'm like, they're in their 20s. They're working. They're just married. Do you remember what life was like when you were that age? Like, we didn't have time for, they don't have the vacation time that, of a longevity job, or, they're, and it would be the same thing like you were talking about with your son, Carson. It'd be the same thing like, well, when you would hear about, you don't come here, you don't go there. And, and I'm like, the kids only get so much time off in school. And, I don't want to go sit in somebody's house for vacation. I want to go do something and make precious memories with them. That's what I want to do. I don't remember sitting inside a home and, it's bad enough I had to do it in wintertime. I lived in Virginia, you can't go out. But, so for me, that was really important. But something that I had somebody that I worked with, I saw him many days. I happened to notice that he was at this like breakfast place certain days of the week, and with only one of his kids. And I was like, well, like, what's that about? Like, what are you doing? Is everything okay? He goes, no, I intentionally make time on my calendar from the minute they were born to take them out one day a week and do something. Because when they were infants, I started this, and that gave my wife time for herself. And then when our other children came, it gave her time with them while I took one out. And then as they got older, it led to conversation that was like that. He said, it was like this big space to say, you could tell me anything you want at this table. It doesn't matter. There'll be no punishment. It's like it became their safe space to have conversation. It's like, wow, that's really, really cool. So I started doing that with the boys as they got older in high school because, college was coming and things like that.
Yeah.
And so, and then also as I started coming into who I was, I realized I needed more self-care. And I realized too, we get told self-care is selfish, that it's not selfish. I could go to get a mani-pedi done with my son, Matthew, who we would crack up our nail tech because we would have conversations. Matt and I would have conversations about girlfriends and protection around sex and all these conversations. And she would laugh. She's like, and I would come in by myself. Other weeks, she's like, you two, the way you talk about, like, well, I want him to know he can talk to me about anything, we call it a raincoat. We're like, I wouldn't really need to wear raincoats, and those kind of things. And then my younger son, he was more, he said he's kind of an introvert. And like I said, he likes to build computers. So it was movies. He likes to go to the movies. So even to this day, so as I went off to college and things, if Matt would call and be like, hey, mom, you want to go for sushi? Because we love sushi together. I knew he wanted to talk. Right. And so with Nate, it was like, if he wanted to go and, go catch a movie or something, I knew we wanted to share something. Or now he's gotten older. This is kind of funny. I talked to him about time. I'm like, your dad's love language is you picking up the phone and making time for him. And he's like, okay. So the other day I actually called him and go, your dad's been home for 2 weeks from surgery and you haven't made time to call him. So he's like, yeah, okay. But I think it's important that, we talk about our kids. We talk about make people our priority, and life gets busy. Life gets really busy. So what's when you work with your clients, what are some of the big shifts that you see happen when they start buying into this time blocking and like what you talk about, the acronym for time, when they start doing this? What are some of the shifts that you see happen?
Yeah. Well, those suggestions are definitely, that people can take away, your listeners today. And I do this process where I create a time optimization roadmap. So they have, and we build it together, but I build it with their brains, energy, and mind throughout the day and match the right tasks with the right time. So I have 100%, which is peak performance. 75 is creativity and collaboration. And then 50 and lower is low energy tasks. And so we build that out so that they can always have it on their desk. And if they know that, typically they tend to be in the same kind of brain energy throughout the day, the valleys and everything. And so that they can take a look at that and say, okay, yeah, it's low energy time. I'm at 50% or 25%. Here are the tasks that I can do that are super effective. So, and when you work with your complete focus time, that peak performance time, the research has shown that you actually gain. That's how you can gain time, is by doing the right things at the right time. And so I really build out with them. And this one client, she manages an office. And so she was finding that, she was dealing with people all day. And then she would come home after she, fed her son and put her son to bed, that she would she felt obligated to open up her work computer and work. Well, within a week and a half, we were having our regular time coaching meeting. And I was like, so, like, what are you doing at night? And she goes, oh, well, this night I went out to the movies. This night, like, I went for, a quick walk, and then I did this and that. And I'm like, oh, and your work computer? She goes, oh, I haven't even felt the desire to open it up, because she was doing the right things. And I worked with her on the how to set boundaries and how to delay people, because people will knock on your door just because it's easier to ask you versus try and figure it out themselves, or, do it themselves. So that was a massive success. Like, it was fantastic. I found that that was a great success. A couple of my corporate clients, because I'm really leaning towards teams and how to help teams collaborate and work as a unit, in that. And one team in particular, like, and most teams like to have meetings 9 a.m., right? Like, let's get it done, because you got early bird gets the worm and this and that. And then, when I do the teams time, their collaboration and creativity is later in the morning or early afternoon. And, that realization, and they actually flipped their meetings so that it was later. And I said, majority of you have your peak performance in the morning. So you want to capitalize on that peak performance. And those who didn't, and their peak performance were late afternoon, that was their lowest energy time. And they did not want to be in a meeting, nor their brain just wasn't functioning, right? So it's definitely an individual process. And so that was a huge success. Like, that team has been performing increasingly well. And so it's a realization, and, to how to meet all the diverse needs and the demands of jobs. So that's a couple. And, I've also had a couple people who they came to me because they're like, I want to be a morning person. And I'm like, okay, knowing in my head that, what, depends on what season you are in life. And she has young kids. She's never been a morning person, and she works very well at night. Like, she gets her kids down, and from 10 to 12, like, this woman's on fire. She can write newsletters. She does everything. And, it took me a little bit, and I'm like, stop fighting it. You could be a morning person when your kids are older. I'm like, this is working for you. Just go with it.
Just go with, yeah. That's so, those are great stories. And I like what you said too about the corporation that, because you're right. They want to do meetings first thing in the morning and things like that. And, you have to look at your team, and you're right. I remember working in the corporate world, people knock at your door because you've got the answer. Let me just go get it from you. And, if you delegate, let them figure that out on their own, it's powerful stuff. It's really, really powerful. I remember when I did work in the corporate world, I'm going to really age myself here. Before we could technology wise, make process payments on a computer, you had to manually enter in the payment, right? You had to mail in a check. We work for a long distance company. And so we were your long distance provider. And so the end of the month, like the last 10 to 11 days of the month, working days, which is pretty much almost half your month, we had to get all these payments processed and in on time.
Oh my goodness.
So it was crazy. And so we were salaried, and we had to dress in like the business suits back then. It wasn't like as casual as today. So I had a team of like 6 people. And I remember like I started going, we have to stay late. I need to keep these guys motivated. They're going to get tired, because I know I'm going to get tired. So I started like dividing my team up. I'm like, okay, this group goes for a walk. And if it wasn't cold outside, I'd send them outside. If it was too cold, they didn't want to go outside, they couldn't stay on our floor. They had to go find another floor, even if it was a main lobby, to go get away from the noise of our office. And I remember my equal leaders are like, you're sending your staff out and they've already had their lunch, they've already had their breaks. And they're like, my staff is getting mail. I'm like, okay, well, if they want to stay late and process payments with me, come on, they can come along and have a break too. But I need them fresh. Like, so as
Yes.
being a good leader, it's important to know when is your optimal time for your people. And I knew that if I didn't walk them in the afternoon, we were going to have a long night ahead of us because we're going to be fighting being tired. And so those are great examples that you gave to us. So before we start wrapping up, tell everybody how they can reach out to you, how they can find you. And I believe you have a freebie, which we'll put everything in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't have a pen and paper, everything will be in our show notes. Come watch us on YouTube, like and share below, or you can also catch us on all the podcast platforms. But Jen, go ahead and share all your information with everybody and your freebie.
All right. Thank you. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at Jennifer Soenen, Soenen. And my company and website is soenenstrategies.com. And so that's all the great. And there's a few other freebies on there. And yes, you will be getting the quiz. Are you time savvy or a time drifter? And it's a fun little tool just to kind of create some awareness in the time space.
Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a challenge. You have to go and download, and you need to come back to YouTube, and you need to put how you did with that time strategy and tell us what you are, because it would be fun to get that feedback as well. So I'm so glad you were on today with us. I'm so glad we talked about time, because it's, as we've talked all those last 40-some minutes, time is so precious. And so I'm just going to challenge everybody that if tomorrow you are not here and all we could say is what you did for yourself, and you could not think of something, I want you to click the link below and book a time with me, or get on to Jen and let her help you figure out how to manage your time better, because you've got to make time for yourself, because tomorrow is definitely not promised at all. So Jen, thank you so much for reminding of us today.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
it's been a pleasure. Yeah.
I'm having a blast. So we're not going to let Jen go quite yet. We did forewarn her. We're going to do, I think I forewarned you. Maybe I didn't.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been having so much fun at time's flying by. So we have our Better Question, Better Life cards. If you're new to the show, these are cards that I meditate, I journal with. I sometimes just pull a card if I'm having a tough break in my day and want some motivation. But my friend Carol Gill and her friend Diane Allen put these together. You can go to betterquestionsbetterlife.com, pull them. There's over 70 cards here. They're great motivational cards, but I'm going to show them, and Jen's going to tell me when to stop, and then we're going to have her answer the card. So here we go, Jen.
Okay, stop.
Oh, she did it quick. So hers is, this is a good one, Jen. Who can I forgive today?
Oh, I can forgive myself. I've been working a lot around this, and kind of brings us back to the beginning of the podcast where, talking with my younger self, but forgive myself for, past not speaking up, not now reflecting back all those opportunities that I see that I could have taken and I didn't take. But the most is taking up space and being okay taking up space. I am the epitome of economy of words a lot of times. So that definitely, to forgive myself for that, childhood, thread that I have definitely brought along into my adult life.
That's powerful. And I think for the listeners too, like that's a great example of that. We do have to forget of ourselves. Whether as a parent, we make mistakes, whether it's something in your lifetime, something that you did, you have to forgive yourself. There's a lot of power in forgiveness, especially of oneself. So thank you for reminding us of that today as well. And so before we let everybody go, I just want to remind everybody that when you come into this world, we are a rough oyster. We have a lot of work to do to open up our shell. And as we do that inner work, you're going to find your inner pearl of greatness. And I hope today you go out today and find your inner pearl of greatness. Have a great day. That was fun, talking about time. And you guys have followed me for so long. I so appreciate you following along. And you've heard me talk about how precious time is, not just because I lost Matthew, but because time goes by really, really fast. And pretty soon you look at it and you're like, wow, that little one, my friend's little one, is graduating high school right now, or college, or or you just look in your day and you're like, where did time go today? If that's something that resonates with you, I really like what Jen shared today about the acronym TIME, about, you know, creating your treasure time. Like, where are those things you're treasuring on your calendar? Where's your investment time? You know, the activities you have to do to ensure you have an income for your family. The mundane task. I like how she talked about taking those tasks and not making them mundane, moving them up to treasure things and doing things like folding laundry with her son. That's really powerful. The empty time, that scrolling that we do on our phones. We're always on our phones trying to figure everything out. Like, what are some of those things you can get rid of? And at the end of the day, like she said, go back to your calendar and write down the things that you did and see where it shows up on your calendar. Because time is not promised, tomorrow's not promised. But if you want to be that stronger, happier, empowered, radiant, original self, that sure that you are, you have to make time for yourself. That way you can show up for those that you love even more. And if it's something you struggle with, I would love to encourage you that on the link below in the notes, make time, make an appointment with me and let me help you with a few steps to get you started becoming your hero self. Have a great day.